You hear a lot from the people who run Washington about the rule of law and its importance, but of course, the law unevenly applied is not justice, it's by definition tyranny. So with that in mind, the following. Back in 2012, 12 years ago, U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder was held in contempt of Congress after refusing to provide Justice Department documents detailing the Obama administration's handling of the Fast and Furious scandal. You may remember all of this. So that happened. Holder cited executive privilege, as many have before, to justify withholding these communications, protecting them, because they were executive branch communications. For that, he was held in criminal contempt, but it was meaningless. Nothing ever happened to Eric Holder. In fact, he became even more popular in Washington. His cocktail schedule was not interrupted even for a day. The U.S. attorney in D.C. cited the country's longstanding practice of not enforcing contempt charges to let Holder off scot-free because, again, he invoked executive privilege, and that's a constitutionally murky area. No one has ever been prosecuted for it. Of course, the Justice Department, which Holder led, refused to prosecute him. And then Barack Obama invoked executive privilege to protect him as well. So that's what happened then. So fast forward 11 years, and Steve Bannon tried roughly the same thing. Bannon, of course, was President Trump's former chief political strategist. And he was ordered, after he tried it, to report to prison by a federal judge. In fact, he's going at the beginning of next month. He was convicted on 2 counts of contempt. Why? Because he did what Eric Holder did and defied a congressional subpoena from a committee, in this case, the January 6th committee, and he did what Holder did. He invoked executive privilege, but it didn't work because he is not Eric Holder. He is a Republican affiliated with Donald Trump. So we wanted to talk to Steve Bannon before he goes to prison in just a few days from now. And you are being prosecuted. You were prosecuted. Now you're being persecuted for your politics. But first, a personal question. I just read this morning you saying you're fine with it. You're not afraid. For most people, going to prison is the scariest possible thing that could happen. That's why it's a punishment. How do you feel about it? And why are you calm?
In my 20s, I spent, almost 4 years on a Navy destroyer in the North Arabian Sea, Persian Gulf, Western Pacific, South China Sea. So in my 20s, I served my country on a Navy destroyer. And in my 70s, I'll serve my country in a federal prison. It doesn't make any difference. It won't change my life one whit. I don't have a big social agenda. I'm dedicated to this work of saving my country. And if I have to be a political prisoner, I'll be a political prisoner. Just a couple of things of what you said in the open. Remember, this is a misdemeanor. When we were in the federal courthouse, the guy that ran the federal courthouse said, and this is in D.C., he said, and I think he'd been there 30 or 40 years. He told one of my guys he had never remembered a misdemeanor ever being prosecuted. He says they're so backed up with felonies, and that's why half the 3/4 of felonies get settled out of court. They just don't, there's no time. He said he's never seen a misdemeanor ever gone to trial, particularly immediately. They remember this is a criminal charge, not civil. You could charge somebody civilly. And like in Peter Navarro, my colleague and brother, he's down in a federal prison in Miami. I don't know if they've ever had a misdemeanor someone there. And Peter's the same way. It's a misdemeanor. So they did this. Remember, President Trump invoked executive privilege, sent my lawyer a letter on advice of counsel. My lawyer told me flat out, executive privilege has been exerted. So you just stand down, and he would handle that. And we had 3 things that we argued in the court. The 3 things are up on appeal still back at the DC circuit, maybe en banc, maybe to the Supreme Court, which my lawyers are figuring out here in the next couple of days. But it's not just exertion of executive privilege and the lacavoli, or depending on my counsel, because my counsel was absolutely adamant that it had been exerted, and I couldn't respond, even if I wanted to. It's also the structure of the committee. The difference in Holder is that, and you see now in Washington this kind of firestorm over the last couple of days, it's the very structure of Pelosi's committee, because in Watergate and Iran-Contra, you had these committees set up, and you had a ranking member, and you had minority counsel. And that causes the tension and drama in these committees. The minority counsel gets all the testimony, you get all the evidence, and you can do cross-examination. That's one of the reasons, Tucker, I think even with the ABC TV producer that came in, the January 6th thing kind of flopped because Cassidy Hutchinson couldn't be, Nancy Pelosi, when Jim Banks, the great Jim Banks and Jim Jordan were the 2 that were supposed to be on there. And Nancy Pelosi told McCarthy no. And Kevin, for whatever reason, just agreed to that. And that's why they never had a committee. You had crying Kinzinger and you had Cheney, who have both been outed from Congress, were the Republicans. Everybody else, there was no ranking member. As soon as she saw Jim Banks's name, who will soon be in the U.S. Senate from Indiana, and Jim Jordan, who's head of Judiciary, she just told him no. And for whatever strategic reason they made, they went along with it. So the other challenge I've got is the very structure of the committee, which the trial judge kind of struggled with. So I believe that has to go to the Supreme Court. Also, I'm prepared to, because I pay all my legal bills. I've never asked anybody to pay, set up a legal fund. I pay all my bills, but I'm prepared, and I've told my team, regardless of what it costs, I'm prepared to go to the Supreme Court on the executive privilege, on Lacavola, and on the structure of the committee, which I think maybe of all the issues, because the defense of counsel is a technical thing for the lawyers that needs to be solved in this circuit. The two most important are executive privilege, but the most important to me still is the structure of this committee. Was it a legitimate committee? And you see with the videos you got the last couple of days of Nancy Pelosi saying, it's her responsibility, the National Guard. This is why we need a complete and thorough investigation by the House into the January 6th committee, exactly what went on. Was it a Fedsurrection? Was it not a Fedsurrection? What are the details? And what did the January 6th committee know about it? Because if you follow Darren Beatty in Revolver News every day, it's every couple of days you get information that was suppressed from the committee as John Solomon and these investigative reporters keep breaking. So I think there'll be a lot more of this, but July 1st, hey, I served my country on a Navy ship. I'll serve my country as a political prisoner in a federal prison for a misdemeanor. I don't bat one eye. Whatever it takes to win this revolution, we got to do.
But you did serve your country in the U.S. Navy. You're now being betrayed and persecuted by your country. There's no fair person could conclude anything but that. Not
our country, Tucker. No, our country, the guys that listen to you and support you. We're being oppressed by an illegitimate regime that usurp power here. And that's what we have to break. And look, I don't need to tell you, they're on you every day, as you know. They're on everybody that stands up. That's what they've tried to do. This illegitimate regime is trying to persecute not just President Trump. They're going to send him to prison on July 11th. They may defer that, but they're going to give him a prison sentence, as they've given Rudy Giuliani, either bankruptcy or deplatforming or taking your law license away or putting people in prison. That's what they're doing. And we have to stand up to it. That's why I would never give them, you see McCabe on TV wetting himself every night about, when these people get back in power, they're going to come after us. You're damn right. We're going to come after you within the rule of law, because that's how we'll bequeath a constitutional republic to our children and grandchildren. But no, I don't bat an eye. It's impossible. They will never break me, ever. And I quite frankly will be just as proud to serve my nation as a political prisoner in a federal prison for a misdemeanor by Nancy Pelosi as I was to serve my nation on that destroyer.
The timing of this, so 4 months starting July 1st, they're taking you on a rotation for the election. That's clearly part of the calculation here, no?
They did it in 2020 also. Remember, in 2020, right at the Southern District of New York dropped this bogus We Build the Wall, of which not only did I never take a penny, I actually put money in. I had a contract, a management contract, a consulting contract, totally bogus. They did that, and they did that because the rumor was out there, which was, had some truth to it. Some of the big donors wanted me to step into the campaign and take it back over like I did in August of 16. There was a lot of concern about, was the campaign, not that they couldn't get out the vote, but could they actually close it? I was in discussions, I've been in discussions since May with people about stepping back in and taking the campaign. So they did this in 2020, and now they're doing absolutely, the timing of this is to take me out July 1st, and I come back a couple of days. They want to silence the war room, and they're petrified. Not that I would come back to the campaign. I think the campaign is doing a really good job, but they want to take out another voice like they want to take you out. They want to, look, they're liquidating Alex Jones's complete media operation. They're after you nonstop. They want to shut down the war room. Look, these people play hardball. And I hope Republicans understand that the reason we got in this situation was these kind of establishment Republicans that were controlled opposition. The only thing these people understand is smash mouth. Now, you have to play within the rules. You have to play within the Constitution and the rule of law. but we can do a lot within that. And that's why I think McCabe and these guys, Brennan, McCabe, Clapper, they're so absolutely worried because they understand we know the game. President Trump knows the game much better today. And there's going to be real accountability come 20 November of next year.
Speaking of Republicans and the false opposition that they put up, I have a list of Republicans who voted to hold you in contempt, a vote that led to your prison sentence. And it's some people you'd expect: Fred Upton, Liz Cheney, Weepy Kinzinger, Nancy Mace also. Has she called you to apologize?
She's actually been on the show a couple of times. Look, I can to win, I can put a lot behind me. I think it's one of the reasons she's had a little bit of problem getting the traction she needs down in her primary, of which I hope she wins the primary. I think she made a mistake. I think she knows she made a mistake. She's come a long way since then. She really backed us. She was part of the whole, part to overthrow the McCarthy speakership. I think she's been pretty tough, but I don't hold grudges against which way people vote. I understand what's going on here as you do. I mean, this is an illegitimate regime of neo-Marxists. From the Justice Department to the FBI, the Wall Street crowd, you can see this everywhere in our society, the attacks on the family, and they play for keeps. And I'm so glad that in the Alex Joneses and the Tucker Carlsons, and particularly since you've had the opportunity to leave Fox, ourselves and so many others now understand that this is a war to the knife, right? We have to win this. If we don't win this, this country is going to devolve into some kind of neo-Marxist totalitarian regime, of which it's pretty far down the road right now. That's why I don't fear going to prison, right? I know it's going to take my voice off. The war is still going to go on. And I keep saying it's next man up. You can't lean on Trump. You can't lean on Tucker. You can't lean on Bannon. You can't lean on Alex Jones. This is a populist revolt. You have to step up and do it yourself. You have to dive in more. You have to do more media sharing, become a force multiplier. So I'm pretty happy with where the show is right now, what the audience is going to do with the team that we've got. But it's clearly they're playing Smash Mouth. And I just think we have to wake up, and the Jim Bankses of the world and the Jim Jordans and the Speaker Johnsons. You have to understand we're in a political war, in an information war, and you got to start fighting like you're in a war.
I mean, I have to say, and I'm not trying to rub it in or make you feel bad, but if you just take 3 steps back, the fact that they're putting people in prison, men in their 70s, you and Navarro, but others, lots of others, people in prison for defying them politically. I mean, that is not the country that we grew up in. Do you ever sort of wonder where you are?
I think, like you, I've seen this coming for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I was able to work with Andrew Breitbart when you started Daily Caller, Andrew started Breitbart. I think at the time we had an inkling when Obama said fundamentally transform the United States. I think we had an inkling with Holder and these guys, but it took really President Trump as kind of someone that people that could rally around to understand that the managed decline of our country was more than just happy, more than just a campaign slogan. It's real. And I think that's, I keep saying Trump's win in 2016 was providential because I was there. We had a man. We had a mission, we had a plane, we had a message. We didn't have much. We didn't have a lot of money and not a lot of organization. And that was divine providence we won. But I tell people it's also divine providence. It's providential that we lost in 20, that was stolen. And the reason was, up until then, you kind of thought Democrats, and they had different ideas on taxes. They had different ideas maybe on certain social programs or education programs, but it's not true. They are literally a neo-Marxist revolutionary group that wants to fundamentally change this country. And now that they have the power of big tech, the lords of easy money, Hollywood, the universities, both high culture and low culture, and the political apparatus, they're going to destroy the American republic that we grew up with. And this is a war. It is a war. And I'm going to go in for a while as a prisoner of war. I'm a political prisoner. And you say you're shocked about it. In one regard, I would be shocked about it, but this is the least. They want to put Trump in prison for hundreds of years. They want to destroy one of the greatest Americans in our country, Rudy Giuliani. Bankrupt him, destroy him. They're playing Smash Mouth. The Republicans don't even conceive of that. That's why in this Trump movement, when we start talking about Judgment Day's 5 November and Accountability Day is after President Trump takes his hand off the King James Bible at high noon on the 20th of January, 2025. McCabe's on TV every other night. McComey's on TV all the time. This is so terrible. We're having conversations. We may have to leave the country. Well, hey, leave the country, but we have extradition treaties with everybody, and the long arm of American justice is going to get you and fetch you back here. Because one thing I can tell you, with President Trump's second term, there is going to be accountability, not retribution, not revenge. He's got the border to shut down, mass deportations. He's got to stop these endless wars, particularly in the Ukraine. He's got to stop the madness of the spending and how we finance this government, which is out of control and caused inflation. But one of the most important things he has to do is deconstruct the administrative state. And part of that is literally crushing the new Praetorian Guard, which is the deep state. President Trump will do this, and I think we'll have a group of people around him that are going to be maniacally focused on to do it. But until that time, this is a war, and a lot more people are going to go to prison.